Peace, peace. Okay, I'm gonna let the people come in. It's a very early time, so I'm gonna let people come in and stuff. I'm not at the school today because the ferry service from Staten Island, where I'm at, Saviors Island, is not happening. So the hours that service is interrupted makes it impossible for me to have a day with my child and also teach. All right, so make this particular sacrifice is something that, it is what it is, right? So I'm here trying to adjust. Willingly, we're doing that okay, right? So you see in my home habitat, this is where I train, right? This is now also where I supplement myself, putting some vitamin C, in the water. I have this entire area as a home gym. And when I'm not working out, it's also a play center for my daughter, right? But any questions that people have, you know what I mean? I don't think that there should be any necessity to go into why this day, Independence Day, is something to celebrate or not celebrate. I mean, I think we're old enough, to know, right? It's kind of babyish. And by the way, the holiday that I wail on the most is Thanksgiving. So that's my personal hatred one. So I'll save all the vitriol for that one. Peace to the God, infinite mind. Yeah. So like I was saying, I have my youngest today with me all day. So if I went to a law school, I would have had to come back, and we would have come back at like 12, around 12 o'clock at night, which is too late. So with the ferry service interrupted in the evening. And I knew it too late, so I didn't know. This is the first time I've been living here, and a Thursday happens to be on a, holiday like this. So I didn't know that they did it like that until a family member told me. Yeah, oh, the oldest Luna's great, man. Luna's great. She's finishing. She's graduating this August from Culinary Institute of America. So, all this militancy. I say I have a daughter in the CIA, and they feel disappointed though. But it's not the CIA. It's the Culinary Institute of America. So my thing is I never have to make a baked good again or buy a baked good again. You know what I mean? Not that I was. Yeah. I remember I said that. I was like, yo, yeah. Because if you're in the culinary world, they kind of know what that is, CIA. You know what I'm saying? Like that new show, The Bear. One of the characters says that how she was when she's talking to another person, when says when she was in the CIA. Like if you're in the culinary world, you know what that means and everything. Like it's old hat. They know you're not talking about the Central Intelligence Agency, but so I had said that to a brother, and they was like, "Damn, man, I'm sorry, Sunez." It was like, "I'm sorry, Sunez." I was like, "No, what do you mean?" I said, "Okay, you know what I mean." Yeah, that shit was funny. Yeah, but it's the culture day, so want to build about culture. You know, what's funny is that some people are mad about. Some people are mad about, like, think about it for this, like, they're mad out of all the holidays or commemorations, though they get mad about Independence Day, and I get it, because um, you're mad about Independence Day because um, we're not free and things like that, right? But sometimes the way people celebrate things, what they choose to celebrate, how they continue to celebrate it, that tells you a lot. It lets you know where people stand. So sometimes these are good. I've been thinking about that a lot with gods that deal with bad, with bad scholarship, like they believe bad scholarship, or they're okay with it. Sometimes people go with a more emotional bent, as opposed to a disqualification. We're supposed to disqualify doctors, ministers, nurses. That's the devils in the Yakub's rules and regulations, the characters, the institutions, I should say. But technically, we're supposed to be doing that too. We're supposed to be what? We're supposed to be inspecting. We're supposed to be making things official, ceremonies, all this kind of stuff. So the way people move, especially when they got this flag, when they got this flag, they wearing their flag, you know what I mean? And they representing this, then I know, like, okay, that's your level of discretion is very low. You know what I'm saying? Or it's emotional. So this doesn't mean that I'm exiling them in thought, but I'm just saying, like, it's telling me some things that are glaring. Leave it at that. You know what I mean? But okay. Yeah. God, I've been building like the whole morning. So I got the link you sent me, but I didn't even open it. I left it unopened so that way I could remember, check it later. But this day I was supposed to be running out, and then now I had to. Now I've been running indoors all morning and building with one of the gods, and just making a very important phone call with one of the gods, though, to build and set everything straight as far as building correctly. So it went very well. King Me, you asked me, do you pray? I do not pray to anything. I don't even spend time um asking for shit. I don't do much of that. You know what I mean? If I think about what I need, and there are people that are around me that help me, and I have people that love me that I could go to, that I say, listen, whether it's God's, whether it's family members, that I can say, listen, I really need this, or I'm. And I don't even do that well. But to me, praying is about trying to tap in with other help. Nah, I can't do that. That's not the way we do it. You know what I'm saying? Um, I don't like when people confuse prayer with meditation. Meditation is about letting go of everything, no mind. So I don't bear witness to that concept of I don't bear witness to that concept of prayer. I think a lot of brothers with knowledge, they try to flip it, and then I don't argue, because I'm like, you're showing me that you don't pray because you have to change the meaning of it. So we're in the same level. So yeah, I don't see it. I also don't. Again, I studied a lot of ideas of the prayer of meditation, excuse me, from the East, and those two things don't equate. You know what I'm saying? Those two things don't equate. You know, um, but prayer. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when I use the emoji, I use that emoji a lot. That really, I use it as thank you. I don't use it as, like, you know. But no, I don't pray. Just asking in the 1 to 40. And do you think the Holy Quran is important? Just asking for your take. Yeah, I said this a lot. I don't really study the Quran and Bible very much. I was taught by a lot of great gods their understanding about it, and they see it as um the if this is a world, Allah world manifest now, then that was the manifest of then. What was to be, what was going to be, and what has been, I should say. Um, I don't see that. You know what I'm saying? I don't see that. So I don't really use those texts. I think that those texts are more, they come off more religious. So I don't really get the jewels out of them. I'm a very deep student of a lot of the Eastern texts, you know, China, Japan, particularly the Taoist texts, many different type of Buddhist texts. Those have been the type of texts that I've spent a lot of years reading. You know what I'm saying? So those are the ones I have an affinity for, really studying, the jewels out of, because even if they were mysterious in the application, the actual focus, especially with Buddhism, the focus, even if they have their spiritual answers as far as like what happens, like reincarnation and other things like that, they had a distinct separation of what they were telling the populace of how they should live. And it was based on edicts of logic, sensibilities, and actualizing as far as the individual is concerned. It was very, very important that the individual, that the individual actualize, So I always saw that to be the case, But I don't really read the Quran. I think the Quran is very beautifully written, by the way. I just never saw it as something to study. And I say that because when you talk about study, we could always change our mind later and then go study it. I don't know. Maybe later I'll have time or the interest, but I don't use it as a proof of my main study usually goes to the proof of the way we ought to be as a logical sense. Like supreme mathematics is a logical mathematical tool of use. Then I look for that in when I read ancient texts of spirituality of any kind. And I don't get that out of the Quran or the Bible, certainly not the Bible. So I don't really read it. Although I think as written text, the Quran and the Bible, I think are very well written as far as like the beauty and the skill and the craftsmanship. You know what I mean? I think both they're very beautifully written though. And I say that because if people say Sunez doesn't give a shit about the Bible, he doesn't use it like that. Whenever I think something is beautifully written, I also think sometimes it's worth reading it. I know that many of our elders, they were really astute with the Bible because they didn't really have the text that they wanted though. At the time, they didn't really have text. And no matter what, even if you had, that wasn't going to convince the 85 back then. We're talking about 60s, 70s, all of that. So when we talk about the Bible, I don't look at it so down like, oh, they were using something archaic and stuff. That's stupid. You know what I'm saying? I don't, a lot of my students build with the Bible and I find it sufficient on levels, on supplemental levels. You got to have more than that with me. But there's too much archaeological work, archaeological digs, history. So I don't accept that only as a build. But if that's a text that you're interested in studying, maybe you think it would help you understand stuff. I say this, they are written very difficult to analyze. And a lot of times I feel like any book, we don't read the books that are at our level. So when we read books, it's important that you find out what book you are at the level of and be your own teacher and judge properly what book you should hand yourself and then be the student and then go through that book, I remember, like I said, I learned this with Savior Knowledge, though. When I was with Savior Knowledge, he wouldn't let me buy certain books. He would sell books outside of law school. He wouldn't let me buy like books he knew that I understood already or had researched enough of, like Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. He would make me buy something more challenging. But then there were other books, and I always remember the Pale Fox, which I do have it. And what's funny, I still haven't read it yet. Maybe it's a way of humbling myself continuously. He wouldn't let me buy that book because he felt I wasn't at the level yet, because he wanted me to read other books first, right? And the only reason I was able to buy from those because I convinced him that a library should have three things, and he knew I was right. A library should have books that you've mastered, books for your children, right? So they're on that one level. They should have two, the level that is challenging that you're attacking, and then three, books that are of a high level that you're not at the level of using yet. Like you can't even look at them yet. They're just, they're over your head. But man, you got them in the book. You're shooting for the goal, And I just said that because I wanted the excuse to collect everything. When it comes to books and music, if people know me, I have an obsession with getting everything. I want to collect everything. If it's music, I have to hear everything. If it's bad, I want to know why it's bad. You know what I mean? Even if I don't hear it that much, I need to know why it's bad. You know what I'm saying? Books, I want to check out everything and then see for myself. You know what I mean? So all of this is a way that I am. So that's why I can't dismiss the Quran or Bible, but I don't really use it as a proof. I feel like we could use more concrete proofs. You know, Infinite Mind, if you have a thought about prayer, I'd love to hear what you see about it. Infinite, you said, I always say culture without freedom is in danger of being dictated. A culture without freedom is in danger of being dictated. Freedom without culture is having no respect for morals and values and ethics. Yeah, that's a great understanding there, right? Peace to the God Trueborn. Okay, you said okay. Is there a difference between prayer and meditation? I think I explained that already. Let me know if you got that from me. My thoughts on the I Ching, the Book of Changes. An exceptional work. And when we look back at history and we see that supreme mathematics, right? There's two things about this knowledge of self. If it was true, if this knowledge of self is true, the black man is God. The creator is man, the supreme being himself. And if that is true, then that means that we couldn't be the only ones to figure it out. You know what I mean? And when it comes to this idea of when we deal with supreme mathematics, you know what I mean, and we deal with this idea about knowledge, right? And that if it was actually true, then that it could be proven in a multitude of ways by a multitude of people and be seen by a multitude of people. And we say the original man is God. That has been the case. This is why I also ended up having infinity for a lot of the Taoist texts, because they would say it, like 3 times in what's the name? The Thomas Cleary translation, one of the great translators of the Tao Te Ching. 3 times in there, it says, "How do I know the universe? By what is within me is the answer." And that's really the way they used to sum it up. When I look at the I Ching, I agree with. I see Infinite Mind said something about the I Ching. The I Ching is the 120 of ancient China. It really is. It's basically what we had done, what the Father had done with Supreme Math. It's basically trying to take the nature of the mind and the reality of the surroundings and blend them together. And if I remember correctly, the nature of your mind and then the surroundings is in the top, and that makes the hexagram. So you're putting 2 trigrams together and you're analyzing as you see it. But you're picking the hexagram. You're picking the trigrams that make the hexagram, one of the 64. To make one of the 64, it's not picked for you like in a dice roll. So you're actually analyzing yourself and your reality. So you can really build with it. But just like with Supreme Math, if you're not analyzing yourself correctly, you can have the correct definitions of Supreme Math or anything, but if you're not comprehending well, you still could use it wrong. You still cannot get everything you need, but it's an ingenious concept. And you see all the trigrams, and you see a trigram that represents what you were dealing with in the mind and what the reality is you're immersed in. Put them together, and then you would get some type of insight to analyze. I think it's genius. It's one of the most genius things ever. And I think that people should read it. Me personally, I've never tried to use it because I read the I Ching after I got knowledge of self. And I don't need after I got knowledge of self, I don't need it. I don't need everything else to live my life would be like a spell book. You know what I mean? I don't need mathematics is not a spell book. It's showing us who we are. But and I don't know if I've met anyone that really uses the I Ching in that ancient way. But it's a wonderful text to see how ancient peoples were able to analyze life, come to grips about categorizing it, and then coming to conclusions. It's very ingenious, an ingenious read, you know, ingenious read. That's peace. Yeah. And the fact that the Quran and the Bible are mentioned in 120, throughout 120, means, King Me, that on some level it is worth investigating. I just give you, I give you, I haven't investigated everything. You know what I'm saying? I haven't studied everything. So I tell you who knows, who doesn't. A lot of times a teacher is not supposed to know everything. They're supposed to be the guide to get you to know everything, you know? A lot of times I teach people and I tell you, listen, you're trying to learn that. This is where you go. This is who you find. This is also what you're going to read, right? That's important. That's important. All right. That's peace, God. You know, I understand both ways that Infinite and True Born are seeing it. I see I see freedom able to be used as an insight, as a reminder, as a supplemental word to the culture at all times. You know what I mean? At all times, though, we can look at culture and analyze out there. Is there a freedom in this? How free is this culture? All of these things, like as far as a tool to analyze. However, I also understand and respect that concept of the 40 or more when people use it. You know what I mean? Me personally, though, I will say, though, that for me, I've never taught it that way, Trueborn, because it never came up, though, where I saw myself feeling deliberately. Now, where I say, okay, it's 40 or more, I see where it goes. I see the history behind why it's being used, but it just never came up for me to use it that way. You know what I mean? But again, one thing, just like we were building Trueborn, you know what I mean? Um, this is the thing, you know what I mean? I think both have value and necessity in this, you know what I'm saying? And how to see it, you know what I mean? Because whether we like it or not, every time we deal with culture, we're also impacting other cultures. And we are making what comes after culture is power. And we are having a influence. We're supposed to be God. We are God, right? That means that we're having a power over others' people culture. So we have to take note, though. Uh, we we are analyzing the cultures around us and say, what is the level of freedom in this culture, right? What are the constrictions? What are the lack of inhibitions? Well, we do both. We do both. And so, in many ways, though, we are always looking outward, though, certainly, and analyzing the freedom in other cultures, though. It's like for example, though, like we go to another country, right? You know that we go to the Middle East, though, and I'm looking all Arabic, though, and I'm like, yo, man, black man is God, man. I'm the true and living God out here. I'm Allah Himself, and I'll be hung up and everything. You know what I mean? They'll be like, no false association with Allah. That is something in the Quran. No false association. They love to bring that out. And Muslims, Orthodox Muslims, love to say that, though. I've been at the school at times where people come to do salat, and I'm like, nah, we don't do that here, though. You know what I'm saying? I know we just mop, but you ain't butting heads on the floor here. You know what I mean? We don't do that. You know? And when I tell them, the first thing that they say is like the false association with Allah, the way they saw it, though, you know? In most religions, though, God is explained. And this is why religion becomes unscientific, because they explain things as we use words or explain a lot, or God, right? Christian or whatever. Even Buddhism does this too. We explain things and give, maybe we anthropomorphize. That means that you talk about God as a man, only because we don't have a better terms for it. We don't have terms for it. And my thing is like, and in Buddhism, often many of the sects of Buddhism will say, we only use science as is just a poor explanations of man for what is going on around them. And I'm like, first of all, that's some bullshit. But it's a way to dismiss science. Once you have a religion that dismisses science, then you have a different type of religion. Many religions were made to unify the populace, but then to unify them, you also are doing this. And that means you're also putting limits on what they can do and what they can't do. And when we deal with the populace, they all have different levels of limitation, different ceilings, because I don't consider racism the glass ceiling, the invisible ceiling. Racism is right around you. In fact, racism to me is doors that are unopenable. Religion is the glass ceiling. When we deal with the 85, we are judging. You know what I'm saying? We are judging those things, you know? And absolutely, God. And I since God, it's great to see Infinite Mind here, my brother Trueborn. I had a great build with the God Trueborn just before I got on. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's about. That's what it's about. You know what I mean? I'll tell you this, and this Trueborn, you find this funny. My daughter asked me right now before I got online. She goes, Papi, you on the phone a long time? No, you know what I'm saying? Well, why were you on the phone so long? and usually I'll say like, she asks me all the time, and that's usually it's a student that I'm going through things with, or it could be like an interview and stuff. Those would be long. And I said, no, I was talking to my brother. I was talking to God, because peace is the absence of confusion. Remember, I was telling you this yesterday. We can't allow confusion. We can't allow confusion. We go in there, we can't allow confusion. If it's on our part, we have to bring more clarity to what we said. We have to bring more depth to what we said. And that's how we start the conversation. I'm going to bring depth into what I said so that there's no confusion. And I said that, and and she was like, okay, that if we love our brothers with this knowledge, the brotherhood has to be different. I always said it's not a family just because you know a fact. You know what I mean? It's not a family if you know a fact, but it's a family though if you live out the truth of the most deepest facts, the most profound facts that affect us all. You know what I mean? And that's why we build with our brothers and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's why we build with our brothers though, But man, my daughter's mad nosy, man. She nosy, because she was like, she thought the day was all her and everything, and and everything. So, I was like, I do have to teach you stuff. You know what I mean? Yo, he was though, guy. But trust me, she was busy playing and everything. She was busy. She was good. But she, they start getting hungry, and then they remember, like, oh, what was you doing? Like, we supposed to be robots that's just stand frozen. Yeah. But I always say, like, you can have children, but all your children could be different. They all be different. They all be unique. You know what I mean? My oldest daughter does the knowledge, doesn't speak up. When she was young, doesn't speak up. Now, she speaks up. This one, the young one, she speak up at all times. Every minute is like always questioning. And I think it's this because I was telling somebody like, yo, a lot of the things that I achieved, my oldest was watching me working to achieve that, striving, fighting my way in. Whereas this one, she see a lot of the fruits of the labor, you know? So a lot of the stuff is old hat, you know what I mean? Like if I tell, listen, there was a time where I couldn't even do those kicks you just saw me do, or I didn't have no books. Like if I tell her there's a time where like nobody would publish me, it don't make sense. It don't make sense. You know what I mean? But you got, Papi, you got 8 books. It don't make sense. You know, so they see things different, so they feel more comfortable to challenge things, you know? So it literally ends up being different types of motivation. You know what I'm saying? Right? It ends up being, you know, different types of motivation. Peace to God, law school in Mecca. Peace to God, infinite, right? AKA Inf Mega, who brings us things, you know. And like I said, you know, just to bring that, I have a lot of wonderfully controversial. It seems right every time I do stuff for a law school in Mecca page, those videos are always controversial. I guess they'll be controversial. I don't know. But the thing is, though, is that we are working to be of one mind, though. You know what I mean? And that was something that we can't let egos get in the way. We can't let our accomplishment be like, yeah, you know, I'm a made God. I do this, I do that. No, we can't have those egos because we saw what they did. We saw what those egos did to legends. Legends. You know what I'm saying? We can't let that happen though. You know what I mean? Right? So we definitely gonna you know, gonna work on that, you know. I'm just letting some people know that they're glad. Yeah. All right. You know, a lot of people asking me about making um technically it's a plus lesson, but I call them like maybe supplemental sheets or whatever like that about the different sets of degrees, 1 to 40, 1 to 10, all of that. I am working on them. But like I made build notes for the 1 to 36. Um I don't want them to be answers. I don't want people to be out there and just be like, well, according to what Sunya said, like they won't be holding it, but in their mind, they're like, according to what Sunya said, nah, I don't want to just have list of understanding and stuff. I want to help like different books, different book lists, um, things to take note of. Maybe I have notes in there saying, look, work harder here, or like note some things like cream of the planet Earth. There, that's not a technical thing. That's a metaphorical thing. It's based on your understanding. How do you build with that? You know what I mean? I want to have a study, be able to have a study sheet and not just give out answers of how I see things. So they are not easy to write where I feel like they'll be useful. So they're going to be what they're going to be. I'm going to attack it. I'm actually working on this whole home studio thing to just be able to record music properly. And that's been taking up some of my time to just figure out how to set it all up. Um, but once I do that, then we're on, because I have a couple. I have 2 books I have to work on, and they'll get backed up if I don't work on them. So it's a whole bunch of stuff. But I will set aside time as I get my schedule fixed. You know, right now I have when there's technical difficulties, it throws my whole schedule off. But all right, let me look through these things. Malik, you said culture is a total sum of activities, diet, exercise, read, study. I see that. I see that. You know, let me tell you something, right? Culture is very important, though. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, culture is something that I end up using a word a lot, though. Like I have to end up using it to describe hip hop culture when I write things like that. But there is differences. There's a major difference between our culture and, let's say, hip hop culture, things like that. Hip hop culture is a collection of cultural expressions, of artistic expressions, excuse me, a culture of artistic expressions infused, which means it could have more than the 4 it is known for, and it does. which also means, what is the binding element? The binding element, though, is the ethics and the principles by which you make it. So technically, that's really what makes it something. It wouldn't be anything. If you could just bite, if you could just do whatever, if you could just sell out, then technically, no matter how many people do sell out, it wouldn't be a culture, because then you can't find what are the precepts to it, what binds it, what makes it where somebody over there could be doing it and somebody here could be doing it. So on a loose level, the word culture it can fluctuate that way, because we're talking about artistic expressions and then how they lived out. In the broader sense of culture, a person's way of life, their artistic expressions merge in there. Because we're 5% though, and we're so influential and so important to hip hop, then now we have to remember that the culture, hip hop cultural expressions, artistic expressions, the ethos of those expressions are not enough, is what I say. It is how I live it. Are not enough as the criteria to pass for us to be doing it. So you could do something that is original, creative, not selling out, but it could be totally not right and exact with our ethos as a true and living God, as living out Islam, I self Lord and Master. That is actual, definite. You know what I'm saying? So it's a conundrum then. I write about music. Certain things could be wrong, but it could be exceptional art. Case in point, though, I just give you one quick one. He's not a 5%er, but case in point of the idea that it could not match our principles all the way is Cool G Rap, right? Super, super legend. You know what I mean? One of my favorite all time. In fact, because I'm so overloaded with music in my mind all these years, I can only, as a youth, my favorite music, because I was a youth from the ages of 15 to 25, right? 15 to 25. Those years of 15 to 25 are the 90s for me. So my youth, literally, like my youth into adulthood, is like the best era of recorded music. I will argue recorded music, right? In hip hop. And my young, right? So if we look at Cool G Rap, many of the things that he raps about are unacceptable for our way of life. Like, you know, we wouldn't really want to say those things or go that far with certain things. You know what I mean? And a lot of means, even if some of the people, even if we had done some of those things, right? Like if there were things you did once, you may not even want to talk about that. You know what I mean? And there was a time where MCs, no matter how much they dance, they did those things that other rappers are talking about, but you just didn't talk about them on record. You know, it was awkward. It was awkward. But the culture that we deal with is important. But what's also important though is learning the culture. And I say this is the thing that blocks us. In this day and time, if you don't know the culture of the original people around you, you are messing up. I'm gonna take case in point. Biggest, we all know the most diverse borough is probably Queens, the desert, right? They got every type of South American there. They got all of India in there and everything. You're the true and living God. Don't be thinking that you're just gonna build with somebody and say, listen, you're dark, you're the original man. Because black man, all these things, you talk to Indians, they're coming out of a caste system. So a lot of times they don't even, it's not even relevant their shade as far as who's lower. In other words, it's, if you black as night, it's definite you on the low end. But then now, darker shades that would be ostracized here, nah, they're in a different caste. They're in a different, right? All these things carry over. Latin American countries, they went through a reverse one drop rule. All of these things apply. You got to know. Dominican Republic separated themselves intellectually and culturally from their neighbors in Haiti by saying that they were more Spaniard cultured. And by default, bringing themselves more to whiteness. Even we know that the Spaniards are the blackest white people that ever conquered, because they were already mixed with the Moors. All of their greatness that they brought was mixed. Their string theory, all of that, right? Their guitars, that's all Moorish instruments. Anyway, so the when we look at all these things, if you're gonna tell me like you're living in an area and you're saying that you're gonna go out there and teach or just share your ideas of your creativity as a 5%, like not even saying like I'm not ready to teach, but I share my reality as a 5%. And I say that as I think a lot of people that got this knowledge, I don't care how long you had it, they need to learn how to teach. Like they didn't spend enough time with elders. Like a lot of times I used to a lot of people, I think I learned so much from people, and a lot of the elders didn't even know my voice that well because I would be quiet all the time. And people that were around know how quiet I am. You know what I mean? This is how you learn, doing the knowledge. And I would be around a lot of people and all of a sudden be immersed in their ways of teaching, how they teach different people. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't get the chance to be around a lot of elders that taught, so they don't see what it's like on the street, seeing different people. You know what I mean? There's legends. There is such a big difference to the way that Dumar would teach someone on the street than the way Freedom, aka Papa Wu, would teach somebody. Completely different methodologies, exuberances, right? Two of the most exuberant, but it's different. You know what I mean? If you notice, certain teachers like Dumar, they would kind of be pulling you away from the environment you're in. You were different than your environment. There was a specialness, right? With Freedom, there was a way of saying you were the dominant factor in all this. In other words, he's kind of spreading you out. You know what I mean? Because he embraced all the things around him. There's so many different ways of teaching. You know what I mean? And so I was able to be around all these different people and see these different things. And people always say, "Oh, I took this part, that part." I just tried to learn. I don't know. Somebody would have to be really watching me to see what bits I have from different individuals, because I don't know. I couldn't say. You know what I mean? I think one thing I pride myself is thinking about the elocution, the way that I speak in clarity. You know, and that's with the way I say things, the way that I write. If I make an art project, I want it to be analyzed, and for some people to have to go rewind. I write that way, my concentrated supremacy thing. But when I teach and stuff, I want it to have such a great clarity because I'm going to use words that are going to take you a higher level. I'm going to do certain things like that, you know. But it's very important that a major requisite, like we've got to learn how to teach, but you've also got to learn about the people. You know, when we look at the European, the white man, the United States, they colonized a lot of places by finding nothing about the people that were there, not caring. The U.S. and let's say Puerto Rico, right? Their colonization of Puerto Rico took very little account of the people's culture. You know, I remember my old earth used to tell me that they just replaced the food groups, and they were teaching us about oranges and apples, and I ain't never even ate one. And we were saying we eat mangoes and we eat quenepa, and they were like, "No, you're not eating that anymore." It's just ridiculous stuff that doesn't even make sense. You know what I'm saying? They're doing this before they even change the import-export reality of the country. You know what I mean? So by the time my old earth is a young person, is a young child, these things are already in play where they're making you denounce those things because we have this here. You replace it with this, you know? But that's not the way we teach, though. That's not the way we teach, though. You could say, look, got to get off the port, got to get off these. So we kind of go out there thinking that we're teaching a replacement culture. Wrong religion, replace, right? But that's not how it all works. That's not every aspect works. A lot of aspects work by you analyzing what they do and finding the best part of what they do and working to augment that, or finding the glaring flaws and why those flaws even exist. We don't know enough about the 85, our people. You know what I mean? That's just a thing. You know. Quatis, great to see you. Great to see you here. If you said culture's one's way of life, customs, values, and closely related to language. Yeah, we often speak in different languages with different values. Supreme mathematics brings clarity in our measurement of values. Yeah, I love the way that's summed up. That's it. Self-magnetic piece. All right, 2 questions here. Malik, you said, all right, culture's one. Malik, you asked me, why would Musa teach the devil trick knowledge instead of letting him be, since it was hard? First off, I say, listen, there's nothing that's done great that was left over because it was hard. So when we look at things like being hard, we need to think about that for a minute. There's not anything that is done that isn't hard. You know what I'm saying? The things you like, though, are difficult. And people don't get that. When you find something you love to do, it could be more difficult. I write about all the music that's great and I put into a giant book. That kind of makes what I love, hip hop, a very difficult thing. Now it's a work that I have to do, and it could be very, very taxing. Sometimes I'm not in the mood to go do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't want. I'm like, yo, this guy's album is gonna be great. And somebody sends me an album, so I know it's gonna be great. Skanks, Blue Azul, whoever, right? This, oh man, Napoleon the Legend, that Spit Gems. It's gonna be a great album. Oh man, but if I listen to it, I really should write, make sure I put that entry in the book, etc., etc., set up an interview, this and that. And all of a sudden now the music that I love, I'm like, now they're doing different methods to get rid of headaches, right? It's real. So everything that you do, everything that you achieve is going to be hard. So let's take that out of the thing, though. You know? They tell you something's hard, it's just because it's a serious venture and how long it took and how much work was put in. But in the reality, there's nothing that should have been quit because it was hard. Think about that for a moment. There's no task that should have been quit just because it was hard. Now there's tasks to be quit or revised. If, let's say, like we're doing martial arts and somebody says, listen, as soon as why don't you do a flip off the 6 foot ledge right here? Now I'm going to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to try that. It's hard to do. I don't do flips, not anymore. And I don't see how that would be useful. And now I know it's dangerous. Like, there's different reasons why you wouldn't do it. In the Musa's case, the dangerous thing makes sense, right? He definitely endangered himself, but Musa represents a people, a people. Not one person could teach that many people. It was a people's. Musa means the civilizer. If we go to Stolen Legacy, we talks about it being a word, being a title as the great teacher or great civilizer, right? I forget what page it was. Right? I forget what page it was. But when we go through Musa, right, and we taught trick knowledge, it doesn't work like that in real life. He's not going up there and going, hey, I'm going to go teach trick knowledge, though. I'm going to teach these bastards to teach the wrong shit, right shit, and mess up the whole world. That's not how it goes. That's not really how it went, though. These are people that have something that they're going to do that's going to change the world, or they have a right to be alive. They have a right to their humanity. but they can only live though because they're weak. They can only live though by getting things that they want and also showing that they could give certain things. That's why it says in a degree, right? In the 4th degree, in the 1 to 14, taught them how to build homes for themselves. That doesn't mean that they came down all with hammers and building equipment and they're all carpenters now. It means that he told them, like, no society will accept an individual unless they can what? Add on to the society and be self-sufficient. There's 2 things you need in society. Add on to the society's growth, but also be self-sufficient in it. Same thing like when we take on people, like when they used to tell me, like, yo, we don't teach older students, but Saving Knowledge used to tell me, if you do teach an older student, you make sure that they have something to add on to the nation. So that perspective has to be these devils, right? They have to go back down and be able to do that. So he's teaching them what? How to not admit everything, how to give half-truths, how to get by, how to get things without having to do everything. Because remember, they're weak. That's very important. It doesn't mean, let's separate weak and wicked. The weak by itself means that they literally cannot do certain things. So it is not a truth to say that they could be self-sufficient completely. So when he teaches them how to build homes for themselves, they can't quite do that in the same way that we could. So that means that the only way that they could do that, though, is to have cunning. And let's look at history. We have many examples of the cunning of individuals to stay alive, right? Somebody says, I'm not that useful. I don't have brawn. I don't have muscle. I don't have aptitude in trades, but I do have cunning. In fact, in a lot of histories of Europe, many of the courtiers, right? Like there's a book called The Book of the Courtier. Much of the courtiers that survived were people that just had cunning to get into the king's ear, right? So this is important, you know what I mean? That's what Musa was teaching them. He was teaching a people to be functional. The destiny that they were about to live out, though, it's not necessarily true that he was thinking like, I'm going to teach them and they're going to catch wreck and kill everybody, you know? And I don't want to mythologize things. I don't like to teach the history where we're like, and so it was said, and Musa did this, and it was destined to be. Like, what was the moment in life where it went from mythology and epic nature and epic battles and epic this and epic that to today's, to today? And try to keep it as real as it is. And remember, a world that did not have white people, which anthropologically is shown and proven, though we can go back and not find them, is a world that is very difficult to put our perspective in. So when you study history, you have to prepare yourself to say, what really was it like before? Some people assume incorrectly there were never disagreements, there were never problems. This is what happens when we look at history in a utopian way, right? And we don't always get the understanding, right? Politically correct due to knowledge. I see that. So I hope that makes sense, Malik. Good question as always. So Sunez King me asks, is your culture Islam or is it supreme mathematics, or does it mean the same thing? Man, that's a great question. When I say to the gods and stuff, I say, look, Islam, I self Lord and Master, that's my reality. But if we had to give it some detail, because that doesn't really tell you anything. If I had to give it detail, my reality is supreme mathematics. Everything that I live out is supreme mathematically done to the best of my ability, ever increasing, ever developing, ever growing, always in the reality of perfection, right? Ever growing, ever developing. So at its heart, it's really is supreme mathematics. Islam, certainly, but it doesn't say anything about what I'm doing, like what that really means. You know what I mean? And that's why I say that, So the supreme mathematics is more of a detailed answer to what is really the same thing, right? Mr. G1, you said Exactly. You want to see results of progress, you got to put in some good work with everything, right? With everything. You know what I'm saying? I love martial arts though, but boy, that doesn't mean that when I wake up, you know what's funny today? This is how much I put my mind to make sure I do stuff. Poor kid, right? I woke up this kid at 5:30 because I wake up at 4 a.m. to train. And I was training and it was like 5:30 and I was almost finished training, still going. And I said, listen, you gotta wake up, man, because I gotta take, you know, my niece to the bus stop. And I'm then I was like, oh man, today's that July the 4th. I totally was oblivious to it. And so I woke up early when she didn't have to wake up. But the thing is though, is that you don't feel a lot of love when you're waking up to do it like that. You know what I'm saying? Just like when I have to write in this volume, sometimes I don't enjoy the music. But you focus on other things. Like I focus on, like, I'm writing about music. I'm not in the mood to write about music. Maybe not even in the mood to hear it, but I'm writing about someone's work. See, I put it like that. I'm writing about someone's work, and it's a good work, a great work. It deserves that other people could know about it, and it gives me a motivation. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe this wonderful work, it might be the case where no one else talks about it. And I know for certain though, I can write about it in a depth that no one will. So we find different motivators to do this work, right? To do this work, That's peace, True Bone. I appreciate that. The same, that is of a mutual mindset and the work you put in as well. Malik said, so Musa is aiding them for survival. I think first and foremost, yeah. I mean, listen, they got brought up into the Caucasus because if they didn't, they was going to kill them. So don't think they're getting exiled just because. They're getting exiled because it's either that or they kill them. You know what I mean? So it was an act of humanity, the way I see it, to bring them up there. Trueborn said Musa fulfilled his legacy obligation was to teach the culture seed, their forgotten trick knowledge, devilishment, lying, stealing, how to master the original man. That's right. These were realities that they were taught. But how can we teach? How can they be taught where they just don't get dead from the first thing? Because it was taught to them that, like, when we say weak and wicked, it's such a powerful statement because now we have a people that wickedness is not a choice only, that it almost seems like the only and almost logical venture for the majority of the people. You see? So now we have a sector of humanity that for the first time, they're not left under their own conditions. They will gravitate toward the wrong thing to do, to hurting others, taking from others, using others to do what they will do. You see? That's where history changes off, though. We have those kind of acts, though, are not created by the devil, right? Trick knowledge, devilishment, lying, stealing, those aren't created by the devil. How to master maybe the other people, like mastering other original men, these are not created by them. You see what I'm saying? None of these are created by them. What actually is, though, is that now it becomes almost necessary if we take the populace at large. Like, here's a populace that, if we're really being honest, though, needs to do that. And that's why certain books, literature like Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams are so important, because it shows you how a small population was able to branch that mentality off and then fulfill the destiny. And it's destiny because every people, every living being, no matter what, has the quest to survive. It is only man, though, that has the ability to say, I will not survive in that manner. I would rather return to the essence than survive in that manner. That's what makes humanity, right? Peace, Alma.
Hi.
So that's what makes humanity. For the first time, we have a people that don't have it in their grip. Weakness. They don't have it in their grip to choose humanity. Because if they did, as a group, well, we wouldn't be dealing with them. They wouldn't be dealt with. They, as a core, they were willing to not choose that concept of humanity, and that's what makes them. That was what makes them unalike. It's very intriguing. You don't have a history of a mass population doing this. People go, what about? They always bring up stuff like Genghis Khan and stuff like that. Read Genghis Khan. Read about him, and you read something totally different. I'm not saying it was all benevolent, but it's completely different than what we're talking about here. You know what I mean? That's right. Details. Trueborn said, very important, cross the T's, dot the I's, don't freestyle, cover all four angles of the square, show that your black dot, truth, in the center of that square, that right? The L7 being the love of Allah God. It's the great being. Right. Trueborn added on. Keep in mind that the knowledge of wisdom, aka questions and answers, the statements of 120, and the application and teaching of Allah give us different outlooks on these degrees. Example, NOI teaches separation of black and white. Allah taught unite the seeds, black, brown, yellow, and white. A seed is a seed. Allah's understanding of these lessons are foundation of teachers of 5% nation, supreme math, supreme alphabets. That's true. That's right. You know what I mean? See, that's the thing about 120 that's so amazing too. It shows you different choices though. When we go into the 1 to 14 and we have the 9th and 10th degree, if we took it on a global level, these are two different choices that are very difficult to reconcile together. You see? So when we look at things though, in each time period, each manner, there will always be the possibility of different choices in each different time. And that's why you got to learn about all the choices. See? But the difference is that as we have culture, right? We are the ones that are cultured. So every single choice we make has to be within the grounds of righteousness. You finally have a people that don't have they don't have an established measure of righteousness. Want to know one of the proofs? Look through European history and you will see, like with many things, with many populists, the progressive is always the minority. But throughout European culture and European history, you always see a small amount of the populace that is actually saving the rest of the white populace from their own devilishment. When you look at British, why do you think America exists? They kicked these criminal asses out. But these criminal minds that they kicked out were powerful. They were able to establish these 13 colonies. But for a long time, we had America may not have happened for these 13 colonies for these white folk because they couldn't even keep from being savage. So in comes the Native American, right? The so-called Native American, the 2 million Indians guiding them, right? But then they start to kill them, and then they don't guide themselves. When we study Christmas, during Christmas time, we talk about Saturnalia and all those other things. In America, they outlawed Saturnalia because they got too savage that it was ruining the entire society that they had built. They were beasting out so crazy that even they said, listen, this ship is not going to run if we keep doing it like this. So when we look at things like that, this is where the development and the abuses of things. We say, why does religion get made? Why does this get made? We fight religion, but if religion wasn't molded, a lot of people wouldn't be kept in check. It's crazy to think. But if religion didn't exist in European countries, though, they would probably be rougher and just be in oblivion now. You know what I mean? Oh, that's peace, God. Peace to the God Mighty. You know? So, we have a history of religions going outdated, right? Remember, in the degrees, right? These are all the prophets. The prophets always come when religions get too idol worshiping, and then they get rid of them, etc., right? That's peace, infinite mind, and so yeah, I hope that answers that. You know what I mean? Went into a whole thing here, but you know. I said I'll be here till 4, but I'm gonna be online for at least 2 hours of this thing. So I'll probably be here till like 3:15, right? I think, you know. But yeah, I say that to say this though, you know. And let me say something, right? Culture. I'm gonna talk about culture because we talk about hip hop. There's something to learn about this whole thing. People see me online. They see me battling this whole thing, right? Right? They see me battling this whole Boricuas were in there, this and that. How are we supposed to be true and living gods and earths if we don't even know how to have a good criteria and judgment of who it is that teaches us something? When people come to my classroom, I give them 3 criteria. If you don't ever come to this class again for the rest of your life, whether they deal with this knowledge, whether they just remember these 3 things. I'm not going to go to all the 3 things, but the first one is, in all things you do, develop a criteria that validates, that checks off, that says this thing, piece of art, individual, lecture, video, whatever, book, literature, extra. I said literature, right? Literature, right? That it checks off that they are qualified to teach you, that they have the qualifications to you to be saying, like, this is valid information. That's why when I get into these hip hop arguments, though, I will say I see people coming in the name and being not right and exact. How could you judge the truth of something, a developing culture like hip hop, cultural expressions that did not get invented in a day, none do, and all of a sudden say, these little sound bites I heard, like 5 seconds of an answer to one question only, and say, that's the answer, that's true, receipts. Man, if I hear another fucking thing about receipts, we have somebody, everybody knows who he is, one for all and all for him, right? He goes out there, represents a corrupt organization, Foundation of Black Americans, and I will argue with anybody about that. Then says that certain people weren't there, has no real proofs that they weren't there, except individuals that's willing to say, oh, I was there and I didn't see them. I was there and I didn't see them. Did you know that I was at the show and prove, right? And I took pictures with everybody. And yet I saw people that was there later and I didn't see them. Because you know what? I did not take pictures with everybody there. I did not see everybody that was there. That's one event. One event. There's never been a show and prove where I saw everybody that was there. Never. There probably never will be. So nobody could say, first of all, I was there and I didn't see you, this and that. First off, qualifications. Qualifications. I tell my brother, I said, you're going to listen to somebody that teaches that the earth is flat? When they go to scholarly discourse, he tells people to suck his privates. He says mathematics starts at 0 and has a horrendous answer for it. And mind you, what's worse about saying that is that if person like him that ever had a build like that, they know well enough that if you have something that is so contradictory to what we teach, that you would go to an elder and say, listen, elder, great elder, experienced elder, I've been thinking about this. What do you think? Because when I had stupid ideas, I would go, Savior, knowledge me. What do you think about this? I want to write this, Dumar. What do you think about writing about this? Now, you don't know enough about that. You need to learn more. No, that's not correct. No, we already did that. You're reinventing the wheel, right? Certain people that tried to trademark our flag acted like nobody ever thought of this. Because elders are too stupid. They backwards and they just don't know. Right? But if they have the respect to go to the elders and say, listen, what do you think of this idea? Because you know what? That's how you deal with elders, educators. When we was learning Kung Fu Infinite Mind, and we would watch Kung Fu movies, and I'd be like, because remember, that's how I was doing the butterfly kick. I saw Huang Zhang Li do it. And I was like, I'll do everything like Huang Zhang Li. I want to do everything he does. Take it to Bobby, though. We copy a move. Bobby, I tried this. We show it to Bobby, Sigung Bobby, right? Got to take it to Bobby. You don't go out there and start doing it. Practice it indoors. Make sure but I'm not sure if it's correct, if it's going to be useful. Got to take it to him. You know what I mean? Right. He gets you to do it the right way, then 100 times, right? This is what I'm talking about. So I tell the guy, you're going to listen to somebody that is completely invalidated, right? Because there's an editing rule. If you look at a page briefly, a newspaper page, and you see an error just on a loose look, that means there are most likely 5 more errors on that page. You better go read through it, fine-tooth comb. If you just went glance and you saw an error, that thing is no good. This man has errors that are like 50 errors on a page. And he's got the receipts. And since when do we listen to sound bites? The people that he's talking to, they interviewed at the Center for Puerto Rican Studies in depth about their history. There were books written about it, like New Eurekans from the hip hop zone. You know why? Because I was a research consultant for that. So I was with PhDs, my mentor, the great Juan Flores, who wrote plenty of books on music. Ethnomusicologist. Lord Jamal never even heard that word. Right? I feel like I said Beetlejuice, you know what I mean, when I say his name. They never even heard that word. So I'm like, you're not looking at somebody that dealt with it scholarly. You listen, a 30-year historian, journalist that contacted people, that asked more than one question. And when they asked a question, they said, wait, listen, you didn't see them around, though. You know who's the last person to see people? I'm going to keep it real with you. I've been doing this music shit for a long time. The last person to see everybody is the musician themselves. They see bodies. They don't see everybody. I guarantee you they missed everybody. You think the artist sees everything? The MC is on stage. You think they saw everybody that? No. How many times I go places and I said, yeah, I remember this show you did. So, oh, you was there? I'm a little guy. I'm always the guy that's in the front row. But you didn't see me? I don't know nothing about this journalism, but we listen to sound bites, out of context questions. We go, somebody goes, I'm the first one to be at this place here. That's like, you'll also be wrong if you say the firstborn are the first people that he ever met, that the father ever met and said, I will teach you. That's not even how that went. I will teach you and you. And it was a Justice League line, like Justice League, you know, like they're all on the line and like, I'm the firstborn, I'm second, I'm third. And then, you know, when they say their number, they go ching and, you know, teeth glisten and ching, you know what I mean? They take out a weapon. Like we was all G Life, right, God? Like when we was G Life, though, we said, I'm Infinite Mind, the Light Eagle. You know what I mean? And I'm the Iron Butterfly. We did that. We stood in the line, though. Wise Ramel, you know, we that's how we did it. That's how we did it. We you know, we took the weapon and we went like this, you know. You know what I mean? No, people have this thing. Like, that's not how it goes. We go through the history. So I'm saying, listen, there's a lot of great scholars. There's a lot of great guys that already did all this work, though. I accumulated that work because it's the research to be a journalist from the time I started to be properly a journalist. It's like if I was a jazz musician and I start from 1955, I studied everything back then and got the knowledge from all of them to know what I'm going to do forth. That's my history as a journalist. That's my history as a 5%er. Teacher at the law school of Mecca, everybody knows that every single person that ever taught at a law school that was alive, I went and built with them. Criteria, validation, thoroughness. You know what I'm saying? If somebody says some wildly wrong shit, it is most likely they be wrong. This is why you might listen to a beat that Kanye makes, but you're not going to say, I think I want a TED Talk from Kanye. I think that would be awesome. I think it's a lot of important things I need to listen to. In fact, let's make it a 3-hour TED Talk. That ain't the one to be listening to. Because if they say something right, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It just happens to be right. I don't know. It's going any which way. It just hit the right place. You know what I mean? VC Realm, right? It'd be 3 hours of hot takes. You know what I mean? It'd be 3 long ass hours of hot takes. So this is what I'm saying. Validation, though. And I'm going to tell you something so people understand when they analyze ancient culture. This is not just hip hop. This is looking at ancient cultures, anthropology, all these things. No one invents something in one day. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. We look at breakdancing, right? Up rocking, stuff up top. Right? All of that. I look crazy doing it, right? Down rocking, freezes, right? When they're on the floor and then they freeze, right? All that kind of stuff. These are all things that when combined, people will say these things make you a b-boy. You're missing down rocking. That's like you're not even a b-boy. Like, you're not even, if you don't get on the floor. So we look at these guys that they parade in front of us. Trixie, those guys didn't invent the down rocking. Then we go for there. So there are crucial influences that are prior, that are major. So they look at the devilishment. Always notice when people will throw out some, but leave others. They'll go, oh, Cornbread first wrote his name, and he's from Philly, and he's a foundational Black American, so it started with us. They never took into account, though, did the ones in New York know about him at the time? Did they get that idea from him? Just like breakers did not know about those ancient those Africans doing those dances. Just like the breakers, b-boys, they didn't know about capoeira. They didn't. You can't find one of them that knew about capoeira. They didn't know about that. And the closest things that were to capoeira were what the down rockers were doing when they finally went to the floor. And that's all led by Puerto Ricans. So what becomes a culture takes time. What are the influences that are major? Right? I was talking about breaking. All these breakdance crews. And this is stuff that I put the links up, man. Dr. Derek Colon gave all the research on this already. All the great research on this. Not saying, oh, he said this and I caught him in a soundbite. One day, somebody's going to take something that I wrote in pre-1999 and say, Sunez was a Christian. Look at it. He dealt with a mystery god. You can find those. You know what I mean? I was very well published before I got knowledge of self. I said, Sunez, you know, he was serious with the Christianity. Yeah. Yeah, he's serious with the Christianity. You know what I mean? They don't look at the time that shit was written. When was it written? Just like we know Clarence 13X, that ain't him. That was him at a certain time. What he became, what he what he born himself to is what he is, what he always was, really. Right? We got to learn these things about culture. Culture is something that develops over time. That's why, like, some people have reasons and not to. This is why, no matter what, I love the idea and the pedagogical use of borning the day's mathematics, because it's such a good tool of learning to merge principles together that it shouldn't be thrown away. You know what I mean? It should be dealt with. It should be used, and it has been fruitful for it has been fruitful for all my students. I have not found students where it has been unfruitful. So how could I throw that away? You know what I mean? Even though I know that certain people don't use it. I remember Emblem, the god Emblem, serious mathematician, knew about math that I didn't know. You know, I don't really, right? And the god, he had stopped using mathematics. He said, listen, 21 does not equal 3, right? 2 plus 1 is, right? And I understand that, but it's great link. And we understood each other. We understood. He didn't change, but we understood each other. It was because when he taught, he was emphasizing mathematics, though. So he was able to teach a student this knowledge using more mathematical sciences than I could lay into. And I was more focused on the philosophical, logical, mathematical uses. Different ways, different pedagogies, different ways of use, different ways of dealing with this knowledge. All can be profound if we understand the way, because now when I build, I could send you to somebody else. I could send you to, oh, that's what he does. And you'll learn more of him. That's how we build, you know? So in essence, that's what I'm meaning though, you know? But how do you go with someone that has no validation at all, that has invalidated themselves? Why are we even talking about this? Why do they get to talk about the subject and they never were there? Something that we gods and earths, we prize that, right? We prize that. We prize that we were there. You know what I'm saying? We prize that. Listen, I talk about this and I had the point of contact. That's why I talk about point of contact. That's a phrase I use in my journalism. From 1994 onward, I consider myself a journalist of that time. And then now over time, it's a historian, because I have an exceptional point of contact. From the 2010s onward, because there's so few journalists, I'm a leader in that point of contact. Definitely from 2010 on. It changes everything. So it's important. You know what I mean? But we got to understand that culture is built up by first, which do mean something, which is built up by the innovators that actually create specific aspects of it that can be traced. It matters the people that were there as it grew, because it matters who was participating, who were the people that were participating, because that's important, right? In breaking, Black Americans stopped breaking for a long time. And that means that while we talk about, they always want to show and divide us and say Puerto Ricans don't like dealing with Blacks. They were told not to deal with Blacks. This is true. This is very true, right? You could soundbite me saying this is very true. But at the same time, though, Black Americans as a defense mechanism were ostracizing and gatekeeping Puerto Ricans and others out from areas as well. And if you think that's not true, then you don't know my experience in hip hop either. There is nothing you will see in my resume that I didn't fight for. There's nothing you see on my resume that I didn't push through and say, give me that. And what Infinite Mind just said, all of these people, the majority of people that made up hip hop were all 85. Yeah, I be saying that all the time. There was 85. How are you going to take their word as the word when they have emotional, levels and connections to it all. They had left, and a lot of them left not because they got bored of it or this and that. They left because a lot of the innovations that we made, Puerto Ricans made, were so different than what they were doing. They didn't like them. That's genuine. You could like, somebody could make up something and you're like, man, I don't like that. It could be totally different. And you're like, I don't like that. Right? Bone Thugs and Harmony, when they rap, I'm like, I don't like that. It's totally unique. I don't like that. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan, you know? Thuggish Ruggish Bone is a dope song, but that's the singing, the R&B singing on it that I like, right? But I'm talking about like and dislike. I'm not talking about anything else. So when we talk about stuff like that, we have to probe deeper to know oral histories, because like and dislike infects it, it pollutes it, and it erodes the timeline. You can't ask somebody, oh, is either we there? How do they keep finding out though? And people keep telling Crazy Legs that they were Puerto Rican and they didn't even know. How do we continue to find out that somebody is Caribbean? Grandmaster Flash is Caribbean. Oh, so now, well, who cares about his innovations with the mixer and everything? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. Now it doesn't matter. This is bad history. Now, when you do stuff like that, you make dismissals of history now. It's bad history. They want to say, oh, well, you was doing rocking, you wasn't doing b-boying. I'm like, yo, you wasn't doing b-boying if the rocking didn't exist. We're not looking at the right thing. We're not looking at the history. Not looking at the history. And then we look at him MC history. I don't think that there are major Puerto Ricans that really of merit that innovate the MCing. They were MCing there, but I don't think they merit that they're innovating pioneers, creators in that. But they were there and participating. But even the first MCs, they don't make up MCing all of a sudden now. You know how much you have to do to be a different type of rapping person, to be different from James Brown, to be different from what we were hearing on salsa records, because soneros were rapping. They were rapping on all call and responses. You know what I mean? You had the in fact, legends like Cheo Feliciano, they were battling other people and people would never confront him on that level. Celia Cruz, nobody. Why do you think a woman is so prized? There were women there were women just as pretty, because Celia Cruz, when she was young, she was gorgeous, just as beautiful and just as powerful, but they couldn't beat her soneos. They couldn't beat her soneos. She had the whole combination. You know what I mean? This is what was setting people apart. So rhyming, the beginning of MCing is very infantile. It takes time to develop that, because rhyming about party, we got records like that already. They're already circulating. And people want to talk about like Black Americans, they did their own thing. Man, Eddie Palmieri in 1964 was saying that Azúcar, one of his greatest hits, 10 minutes long, he had to change the chords on certain things to make it more funky, because it was Black Americans that loved that song so much that's why the song sounds like it does. And see, unless you know ethnomusicology, you don't know that. And unless you understand music, you won't tell the difference between Azúcar, that song that he did, and an other Eddie Palmieri song, and what is the real difference. A lot of Black Americans that really know, they'll find the funk in there. A lot of these people, they're not even knowing about music. They couldn't even do that. They couldn't even hear the difference. We teach all the human families, though. We teach all the human families. And this culture, music and art, they're so crucial that we need to know about them and not separate, because it's important, though. It's very important, though. Very important. And you're going to listen to somebody. If you listen to somebody like Jamar talk about shit, you listen to anybody. You let an 85 tell you what's what. That's crazy that we even do the knowledge to him, though. You know? In the scholarly world, when one scholar violently dismisses, and vehemently, emotionally dismisses another scholar, that scholar becomes invalidated, though. Didn't Jamar do that by insulting one of our great young scholars that has become great and is great, Minister Freedom? That's the end game over there. How we listen to him, though? And I'm just telling you I'm not even telling you on a God, earth level family. Man, I got a twin brother. If somebody insults me, man, that person is dead to my twin brother. My brother's like, man, he dead to me. I don't care what he does. And vice versa. Where is all this? Because we want the easy out, though. And if you start focusing on the worth of your reality and learn your reality, I'm Black American, and I'm going to focus on who is oppressing me and how other original people treat me worse, then you know what you're going to do? You're going to fall into the hands of exactly what the devil wanted you to do. The devil will never treat all original people the same, because that's the easiest way to unite us all. The father had us roll black, brown, yellow seed and mix it up. That's really what he was doing. Black seed, roll with a brown and a yellow, rice, and mix it all up. Because he knows that everybody gets treated differently and everybody will see things differently because of it. He understood socialization, and no matter what truths we bring, because the truth that we bring takes away socialization from our identity. In other words, it doesn't matter who oppressed me, who did what to me, and the specifics of the oppression. It matters my genetics, my originality, who I am. That's our identity. So when I see people with knowledge and stuff and they start crying, but you know what? You gotta admit, this is how I get told. You gotta admit, the Black Americans, we get treated the worst, though. You got knowledge of self, and you sound like a crying bitch to me. Like a crying bitch. You want to say that you're the true and living God, and you don't want to take the responsibility of being the most hated, the most ostracized. You're not ready for that responsibility? Then I thought you borned yourself into this, though. I thought this was the war that you wanted to be in. You crying about that, it's like telling me you borned yourself, though, and now you're crying, though, about what you did. I don't cry about the time period I'm in. I don't cry about anything. This is what we were born into. This is what we want to be in. No one else is equipped for this. You send me back in time to lie down in a pyramid hammock with Imhotep, and I'm going to be bored. That's not my time period, though. I'm here. I'm building here. This is what we built for. Giving me all that, you know? I used to build all the things that happen to Borinquen and all those kind of things so that brothers know, like, yo, we have a like reality. We're like reality. But I'm not here crying about it, though. Because at the same time, though, if you look, because we're treated all differently, like Isabel Wilkerson writes about the caste system, and that this is a caste system in America as well, then that means that the caste systems in the middle get treated badly, but they're also left ignored. That's something she didn't add. She didn't really analyze the middle caste like that. I'm going to stay here crying about being ignored? That's like me going, yo, God, you from the heart of Medina. I'm from Sunset Park. And by people know I call Sunset Park the lettered lung of Medina, because I'm a writer out of Medina, and it's the lettered lung. I gave breath to it. I don't be crying and saying, oh, y'all be hating from, I'm not from the heart of Medina, man. That's what y'all sound like this. That you actually listen to somebody that's doing the same crying game, a crying game for you. And then you follow stuff like Foundational Black Americans that's led by Baby York. You know me? Tariq Nasheed is Baby York. Hustling narratives, and we know that they know better because we already saw the hidden colors. Boy, that is wordplay, right? We already saw their hidden colors. They already know about the diaspora. They already know that there's no the differences on the most important levels is not there. But they give you the narrative, right? That's hustling. That's hustlers. Y'all fall for that though, you fall for anything. We're supposed to be critical thinkers. We're supposed to be challenging people. I'm embarrassed. I'd be embarrassed. I'd be embarrassed though that I've been around so long, and brothers know, like, yo, you don't if you don't know how much more validation I have, then that means that I know you ain't been buying my books. That means I know that you haven't seen the not 100 or 200, but over 300 to 400 interviews and over got to be at least 1,000 articles I've written in my career. And I'm saying not my home, published. You're going with that? Because they made records that they couldn't show and prove? Y'all are bugging. Y'all need work on this. Y'all need work on this. And I'm talking to family. That's embarrassing to me. And we got to do better than that. Instead of going out there 4th of July and going, oh, why are you celebrating this? Why are you celebrating that? Y'all go back home and get your independence first. Get your independence first, though. Go home, get your independence first, and be a critical thinker again. That's what we need to do. We don't need to be going out there and telling people, no, this, that, and the other. You tell your children, you tell the young that's listening and stuff like, yo, you know, this and that. We have good books. There's plenty of books. You know what I mean? You right? You want to be angry though? You read books about it, what have you. You know what I mean? This is wild right here, man. Get your independence. You know what I mean? You're gonna tell me that we've been in this nation though, but we gotta follow an organization that don't even have the truth though. And I tell people, I'm telling them, yo, God, like, yo, I know you that you know original people, you know their differences and all that. You're gonna tell me that this shit is correct, what they saying? The proof is in the receipts though, because they said this guy made it up. And this guy was here, made it up. You know what's funny about music and culture, especially music, is that for every great lyric and every great song's musicianship that you will hear throughout history, you will find people that did it before that person. But that person often had never heard the other person before. Right? It's a wild thing. I gotta take a break. I'll come back in. Let's see what we have here. Okay, let me go back. I went on a rampage here. I missed everything. G1, you said I've been doing analysis to sex culture like dominant submissive relationships and tantra. Do you see this as useful to helping the male female dominant submissive dynamic? It's not all about the physical sex or even whips and chains, more so mentally and physically, something original people can use as a practical way for better relationships. When we read anything of the past, once we validate it, we're looking at things and trying to understand, did they have more insight or some type of insight to add on? So I don't have a problem with that, you know. But with certain things, not everything is a rule, you know. Don't make rules out of things that you see, you know. I would say with that, you know what I mean? Malik, in the short, Jamar just says that Black Americans made up the whole thing and we were early participants in it. So he almost reduces us to consumers of the early culture, which to me is gross and disrespectful because it's not true. Doesn't matter if it sounds bad, it's not true. It doesn't matter if I don't like it, it's not true. You know what I mean? Yeah, Infinite Mind, you said the five came together. That is why we got knowledge itself. I grew up around tons of Latin kings. We had our battles regarding the so-called black shit, but also I had to fight with 85 Afro-Americans who didn't see the brown seed as the original Asiatic black man. That's true. Um, uh, let's see. Peace to the God King Kamal. Yeah, yeah. And true born, that's the truth. You know, Jamar needs to be asked that question too. Infinite, you said why we that's why we stuck out here in our communities because our nature was already 5%. That's why we were attracted to the knowledge and it separated us from our communities because we weren't dealing with the God degree in the 1 to 14. That's peace. 793rd, peace. You said definitely and always doing the knowledge to what and how great minds and teachers influence. Appreciate you all. That's peace. That's peace. King Kamal said you also have 3 albums out where you're dropping the knowledge and teaching God. I do. Thankfully, in a wonderful musical creative partnership with you, my brother. You know what I mean? And another album to come out too, you know, more. You know, it's been great. I appreciate you, Trueborn. Word. Right? Infinite, you said we already know the understanding cipher degree. Right. Okay. That's right. Yeah, that's how the devil was made. So we look at the antithesis of what, and how it was God made. Yeah, that's right. Let's see. Okay. Appreciate that, Malik. I see what you're saying, Infinite Mind. That's what I mean. Yeah, that's why I make it called. It's not the perfect word there. You know. All right. All right. So I'm gonna be here for another 15 minutes, though. Um, I feel like I talked about everything that I generally wanted to talk about. You know, the reason that we deal with today's mathematics, right, is it deserves a little focus. You know what I mean? A lot of the ancient cultures, they have mantras that they repeat. You know what I'm saying? And they also deal with them mathematically, but they never really dealt with them the way we do. You know, and it's great to focus on a principle and see how it manifests. You know, I say where it gets carried away if you're saying everything has to be dealt with in the lens of culture and you're the New York Times, you're fitting all the news that fits the print. You know what I'm saying? But that's not exact. You know, the whole idea was that you're living all the mathematics, but focusing on this one, you get more insight to it. And remember, the whole world is dealing with this day. You know what I mean? The whole world. So that mathematics is very important to the patterning of the world. So it becomes even more potent in use. You know what I mean? All right. So again, I'm gonna be here for 15 minutes. I think what I've shared has been useful. I'm willing. And I didn't make it to school today because today's my day with my daughter, and I was gonna take her out, right? But the Staten Island ferry is not running from 7 to 10 p.m. and I couldn't. It was too late for me to figure out how to do all that and then come back by that time. So we would be stuck out there until the late hours. It's with all the drama that people do and everything. I don't mind being stuck out there alone, but I don't want to be stuck out there with my young one all sleepy and everything, and it's past 9 o'clock like that. So we had to do this, but yeah, but now that we're digital, we're able to throw something out there that is useful, that merits, you know what I mean? And by the way, like all this stuff that I'm talking about though, right? There's a lot of resources I have, you know what I mean? There's a lot of resources. It's just wild. It's just wild to me, you know what I mean? It tells you a lot what people are focusing on. Whenever you see something that you're attracted to, I would say this, when you yeah, we was going off, True Boy. We was going off, True Boy. You know what I mean? But whenever you see yourself attaching to something emotionally, always be aware of that. Always be aware of that, because it's fine to be attached to things emotionally. But to then realize, what is that? Why are we doing that? You know what I'm saying? At this day and age, though, our people don't need to be attached to what they went through and what makes them different, but to see, what gets lost though in the culturing of foundational Black Americans, that with everything that the Black American created, which includes, of course, hip hop, and is magnified by hip hop, but happened in jazz, happened in, which to me is the most crucial genre in the whole hemisphere. It allows everything else to become, what happened with soul music, R&B, all of these things, is that our people were always doing the knowledge to everything that was useful and taking the best part. Culturally and definitely musically, we were taking crucial elements from other things that don't deserve the credit as far as, so they created it then, but do deserve the credit, like, it was there. Like, for example, music in general in this United States of America is primarily Black American, but all of it is based on manipulating European structure, the European musical structure and melodies, and infusing and dominating over or through with our rhythmic nature, our rhythmic depth of patterning. That's really how all this is created. Also with the languages that we brought, how we constructed these dialects, that is crucial. But it means that we took and did the knowledge to different people. These movements aren't doing that. They say, instead of seeing the so-called Native American, right, and the Black American that was brought here, seeing the years and the depth of culture that was infusing, that ended up confusing censuses so crucially. And they go, we're different, and we're different because the white man didn't enslave you, and deliberately didn't enslave you, and some of you Native Americans had slaves. You realize that that's not really the crucial depth of the point. The war was with all original people, but the war was not going to be won by pitting, by treating each original people the same. Everything, if you study, and people would know that if they studied Native American history in the Americas a tad bit, just a little bit, reading certain books to get you started by, let's say, Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, right? And others. The work of Jack Forbes, not saying that you have it. Like, this is what they do. They show up with a book and it goes, see, African Americans, Native Americans, look, Jack Forbes was saying that we're native, we're the original Native Americans. Yo, I know that you didn't read the book. You know why? Because I read the book. Because I have the book. And I know you didn't read it because you sound stupid and it's a hard book to read. So you acted like you read the book. It's a very hard book to read. Very boring. It is not built, it is not written for the lay person. When I mean lay person, someone not in that field. So it's boring to everyone not in the field. And it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. Now, so instead, they take away the Native American and say, oh, we're the original Native Americans. We have nothing to do with Africa. But then when it's time to say that they had the drum patterns and the polyrhythms that we were bringing from the Cuba, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Jamaica as well, because they have rumbas too. Haiti, merengue, those are all there. Unique polyrhythms and unique merges, right? Look at Dominican Republic with their German accordion in the P.E.A.C.E, right? Unique rhythms. They're bringing that here, and you can't even understand it. Now you say you're not from Africa. What in the fuck are we doing? This is the movement that you're messing with. That doesn't know anything about culture, how it works out, how it's infused. The very beginning of one of the biggest, greatest discourses on jazz music history is by Ted Jiwa, one of the great writers. And I respect him and inspired by him because he's also a musician as well, which that ended up being my path. Just like Baraka, I write about music, but I also became a musician. The first few chapters on the history of jazz already have the Latin influence in it, what they call that polyrhythm, that special polyrhythmic pattern that was not here because jazz comes from a melting pot. Cuba, New Orleans, it's all there. So people can invent things, but know that until we get to hip hop, that overt, outright diaspora doesn't exist until we get to hip hop. And that's why that being destroyed takes away a crucial part of the possibilities of us. I don't let nobody mess with that. I spent time in scholarly ciphers, street ciphers, musician ciphers that were far greater than any of the shit that he did. To be hearing about somebody, some flat earther, that if I kicked him the right way, he'd fall off. You know what I mean? And we're going to do things with respect. And that's why I talk like this, because I remember being asked to debate him. Sagad Isaac, right? No, it was, right? It was one of them. Asked me to debate him, and I said no, because if he's going to talk to my brother, Minister Freedom, like that, first we would have to do it together in the room. And then that's not even a good idea, because nobody is going to talk to me like that. Absolutely nobody will talk to me like that. And I'm not going to make a show out of myself and being stupid. I'm not here to trend because I'm some teacher at a school and then started fighting somebody and giving them what they deserve. I didn't say I'm going to give it. I said I'm going to try. You know? And my try is real good. My try is real good. You know? But no, we got to have scholarly discourse, respectable discourse, not making a fool out of each other. But anyway, that's certainly the case. Good discourse here. 11. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, yeah. You know, they want to make. They want to get their M&M. They want to teach their M&M. You know what I mean? People don't know. I'm gonna keep it real. Very few, and it's because of the socialization. It's because of the intensity of the truth. A lot of white people have real trouble dealing with this knowledge, and it's not because they don't agree with it. They just have real trouble with it. It's really hard, you know. So I'll keep it real. It's not because I'm not even going to the wicked thing, or they're going back to wickedness. I'm saying it's difficult. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna keep it there. You know what I mean? If we had to judge, right? The only, the only, the only people that should be of a level of incredible difficulty that you even take the time to teach, though, is the black woman. That's the only adult you should even be bothering with. If you bother, like it's a bother. But it's difficult. It's very difficult to teach whites. You know, you're challenging them to be a rebel forever, and some people are not built to be a rebel forever. You know what I'm saying? We're not rebels. When we learn this knowledge, though, we are not rebels. We are not. We're not going against ourselves. Whatever society says we're rebelling, though, that's on their shit. Because this shit is not real society. So nobody's gonna tell me I'm rebelling against shit. You know what I mean? Right? You want to spend time with an adult that's difficult. Teach the black woman you're dealing with. That should be. If you're gonna give yourself a headache, keep it for that. If you're really teaching your black woman, that's your headache right there. That's gonna be a headache. Okay. Okay. Oh, to try to reform. I see the answer here. That Trueborn. I agree with this. Yeah. A messenger a lot. Fard. I'm a prophet. Fard. Messenger a lot talking. Green needs to do over forms to shape mold. Also existing within the realm of relativity, having length, width, and depth. So in a physical aspect, we can't reform the gravity, though they are who they are. We're shaped the people's mind and whom we come in contact with by giving them pure mathematics, walk and talking. Malik, you're the maker. You make her, and her bear witness to you. In return, they recognize themselves as one with you, and how Allah can do. Right? You're allowed to your fruit. They're your 5%ers. They become allowed to their fruit. Allah lives. You know, I have taught white people, but to me, we teach all the human families, and in that degree, in the knowledge build degree, the civilization and righteousness is really the best things that you could give a lot of good white folk. They're good white folk. If you get them on civilization and righteousness, you're good, because they're gonna know that's all they need, though, to live correctly. You know what I'm saying? You tell them what is the things to be righteous and what is the world that they live in, and that they had a major legacy in. You know what I mean? That's what they need. You know, even if they get a knowledge of self, though, they're gonna have the harder duty, because uh, I teach. If I when I teach white people, though, I'm not teaching them to teach us. You know, they ain't supposed to be teaching us. I don't care if they're the hood. They're supposed to be going to teaching white people, and then they have a problem because they might be able to only get the nerve up to teach their family, and you know, family don't usually take it. That's not really how it goes. Family, they're too close to you, right? So they got to go out there and teach them, and they're not strong. They may not have the facility enough, or the talents enough, and the ability to make things that end up showing people. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, I never have to teach at a law school in Mecca or teach overtly. My works teach things about this knowledge, even when I, like, not just as direct documents. You know what I'm saying? But are they powerful enough to do that? That's why we say, like, yo, you choose the students. So, like, why would you choose somebody that can't really even do it? That's opportunity cost. Like in business, when you have your opportunity cost. You know what I mean? We teach all the human families, though, they got to take the responsibility to be able to share this stuff to a world that we are not privy to. Are they really going to be able to do that? Go around, go back down to your neighborhood, right? Go back. Don't go to Sunset Park. I'm these spics and these Mexicans and all these wetbacks, whatever you want to call them horribly, we got this. Don't go to Harlem. You ain't teaching nobody in Mecca. Go back to Bay Ridge. Teach somebody in Bay Ridge. You know what I mean? Go teach there. You know what I mean? So we might be sending somebody off to get killed and shit. You know what I mean? Where's your white student, Sunez? I don't know, man. Missing in action. He's MIA. Shit. I don't know what happened to him. I told him to teach his own people. You know what I mean? But sometimes they need the weaponry of Musa, though. They need to put the fire around them. You know what I mean? Right? And give them some, you know, like, is this really difficult? Like, when you teach people things, you also look at the responsibility of what you're sharing. Can they use that? Like, sometimes you overburden people with the truth, and they're like, their head explodes. That's why our family don't deal with what we're dealing with. We change so drastically, it blows them away. You know what I'm saying? Blows them away. You know, they can't take that. You know. Yeah. If you're teaching properly, though, these problems don't come up. You know what I'm saying? I am one that ends up teaching people all types from everywhere that come to me. So I'm a person that I don't really have to go find people to teach because of me having the greatest school of all at the, you know, that responsibility, and then me doing stuff and sharing books and things is out there. People come to me, and I make those choices of what to give them and stuff like that, of what I can do. And so I do my best to share something, and I'm always behind with stuff, but it ends up